Hi, my name is Joseph Barber. As you can see on my channel, I just want to talk today about postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome and seizures, but non-epileptic seizures. So I have postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I also have non-epileptic seizures. Um, Most of the medical field, if you say you've got non-epileptic seizures, it's all psychological. It's triggered by stress or emotions. But with my non-epileptic seizures, that isn't the case. My non-epileptic seizures, they have to be treated when I'm in a seizure. I've never come out of one on my own. You have to give me rescue meds, which is different, because usually non-epileptic seizures you would come out on your own. So basically, my postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome shoots off the wrong signals now and then, whacks me into a seizure. But because it's not epilepsy, it's a non-epileptic seizure, but not as your normal non-epileptic seizure like a psychological one. So I just want to point out as well, if you guys have got postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome and have non-epileptic seizures, it's definitely worth looking into it more. Is this psychological, or could it be my POTS shooting off the wrong signals and this isn't psychological? Like for me, if I've done too much, I can have seizures. If I'm dehydrated, I can have seizures. If I've got an infection, I can have seizures. Pain can cause seizures. Standing up for too long can cause seizures. So I also have autism, and when I've had my meltdowns, I've never had a seizure. When I've been upset psychological, I've never had a seizure. So basically, to me, that rules out this is not psychological. And also a big thing with me is I've had several general anaesthetics in my life, and I have had seizures under general anaesthetic. And if my non-epileptic seizures were psychological, there's no chance I'll have a seizure under general anaesthetic because my brain shut down, which basically proves it's physical seizures. And like I said, I never come out of them on my own. I always have to have rescue medication, and that's either an injection or something called a gamma core. So because the seizures are triggered by the POTS, this is a gamma core. It's from America. My consultant prescribes it for me in England. This regulates your vagus nerve back in place. So obviously everybody with POTS knows about the vagus nerve and your autonomic nervous system. So basically, this here from having a seizure, I'm unconscious by the way, it's like a little electric shock thing. It stimulates the vagus nerve, whacks it back in rhythm, boom, I'm out of the seizure. But then if that doesn't work, the autonomic nervous system needs blocking. So a lot of the time when I have an infection, this probably won't work, and I need the autonomic nervous system to be blocked. So I'll have to have an injection called glycopronium, which is usually used to dry people's mouths out and secretions. But my consultants figured out for me it can be used as blocking the autonomic nervous system. It's a bit like atropine. It's an agent where it can block off all your nervous system actions, and then that'll bring me out with a seizure. So basically what I'm trying to say is, if you've got POTS, don't let them say, oh, you've got non-epileptic seizures and it's psychological, because I got non-epileptic seizures. There's no proof that they're psychological. The only proof they have is they're physically driven, and especially now I've had them under general anaesthetic. So yeah, there may be non-epileptic seizures, but there's nothing else they can call them. And like I said, a lot of non-epileptic seizures are triggered by psychological things, and they usually leave you to come out of it yourself. But with me, that's not the case. They're still non-epileptic, but there are triggers. Like I've had EEGs, they've always come back fine. But it is to do with the POTS and your autonomic nervous system, hence why this works and the injection works, and I have fluid for the seizures as well. So they are non-epileptic, but triggered by the POTS, the vagus nerve and the autonomic nervous system, and that can be flipping dog. That can be that can be so don't let a lot of neurologists will say non-epileptic seizure, oh, it's psychological, when it isn't. I'm not saying it might be psychological for you, but it's starting to be known now as well that non-epileptic seizures aren't always psychological. They are called non-epileptic seizures because there's no other name for them, like for me. But like I said, I never come out of them without rescue treatment. Diazepam does not work because they're not epilepsy. Hence why I have this weird little machine called gamma core, which stimulates the vagus nerve, and I have the glycopronium if the gamma core don't work, which blocks the vagus nerve and brings me back out, which also tells you this is all related to POTS, the autonomic nervous system. So yeah, and they only started when I got diagnosed with POTS. For about 6 months on, I started getting these seizures when I was 18. So yeah, they may be non-epileptic, but they're not psychological. Like a lot of the medical field are brought up in university that non-epileptic seizures are psychological, but not all of them are. And it's always good to spread awareness about that, because if you don't, you'll get given the wrong treatment and you could be in that seizures for hours because they don't realise that you could have treatment like, say, a gamma core or glycopronium or whatever. Because they think it's psychological and you're going to come out of it. Like, I've been in a seizure for over 4 hours before because they thought it was psychological and I come out of it, and I didn't. They called down ICU in the end, gave me some glycopronium. 10 minutes later, I'm out of it. So there's no need to keep me in that seizure for 4 hours. Basically, that was neurologists, and to me, neurologists are a pain about non-epileptic seizures. But yeah, so basically, my postural for static tachycardia syndrome and my overreactive vagus nerve causes my seizures, which, yes, they are non-epileptic seizures because there's nothing else to call them, but it doesn't mean they are psychological. And I want to let you guys know that because some of you guys could be the same, and I don't want you going through something that could potentially be treated by rescue meds. So it's worth looking into, especially if you've got POTS. Talk to your specialist and see what they say, because it is possible. And like I said, not all non-epileptic seizures are psychological. Do not listen to that. There's a lot of physical non-epileptic seizures. You just have nothing. There's just nothing else they can call it. So yeah. So I hope that's helpful. And yeah. Yeah. If you have any comments, please leave below. But non-epileptic seizures to the old-fashioned doctors are psychological, but that's not the case anymore. There are a lot of physical causes and medication which can get you out of them if you're like me, and physical things that can be treated to prevent them. They're not all psychological, don't get me wrong, some are, some aren't. But back in the day, they all were, and still a lot of doctors think they are. Do not let that happen. If you think that they're not psychological, then definitely bring it up. Because I feel for you guys. I was there. So yeah, hope that's helpful. I'm gonna go because the dog's barking again. Like I said, leave any comments below. And yeah, cheers.